A while ago, I made a team that could win in only 2 turns, but that was a few months ago, so I think it's time we revisit the team and update it a bit. So today, I bring you a new team that makes use of attacking your own Pokemon, but this time, the star of the show is going to be Coalossal. Introduced in Gen 8, Coalossal has the unique ability Steam Engine, which says that when it is hit by a fire or water type move, its speed goes up by 6 stages, basically quadrupling its speed stat. And because the turn order is calculated dynamically in Pokemon, this means that if Coalossal's speed is boosted in the middle of a turn, it can actually outspeed even some of the fastest Pokemon and move before them. But speed isn't the only thing that can be boosted on the Coalossal. If you have a Pokemon use Flip Turn on Coalossal, not only will Steam Engine be activated, but if it has a weakness policy, that will also boost both of its attack stats by 2 stages. And if the Flip Turner switches out for either something like a Chi-Yu or a Chien-Pao, they can reduce the defenses of all Pokemon by 25%. This can turn Coalossal into a colossal threat. Get it? Because, colossal. Anyway, beyond that though, Coalossal can also be used as a support for something like Chi-Yu because of its signature move, Tarshot. Tarshot lowers the speed of a target Pokemon while also doubling the effectiveness of fire-type moves against them. But despite all of these cool possibilities for Coalossal, that's actually not how we're going to be using it today. So how about we go over to the battles to show you what I mean. The previous self-crit team used a Krookadile, and that hasn't changed in this team, as it's still an option here. But instead of leading with Meowscarada, we'll instead be leading with Iron Bundle and Coalossal with Krookadile and Flamigo in the back. Our opponent leads off with Ting-Lu and Vivillon. We should be safe here since there's no way either of these Pokemon are faster than our speed-boosted Iron Bundle. So our plan here is simple. We flip turn our own Coalossal, meanwhile Coalossal will be using Rock Blast at our own Iron Bundle. That's right, a double self-attack. But don't worry, this is all planned. It looks like the Iron Bundle spooked our opponent though, as they're going to terrestrialize their Ting-Lu into a poison type. I'm assuming this is to get rid of its potential weakness to a Hydro Pump, but little do they know that the Ting-Lu isn't going to be our target as we bring our Coalossal dangerously low with a flip turn, but this is actually the perfect amount of HP. Since it was hit with a water type move, Coalossal's ability Steam Engine raises its speed stat by 6 stages. But not only that, being reduced to below a quarter health means that its Landsat Berry activates, which increases its critical hit rate by 2 stages. This means that once Iron Bundle switches out for Krookadile, we can get a crit onto Krookadile with the first hit of Rock Blast. And thankfully we did, since that was only 2 hits. The Earthquake comes in from the Ting-Lu though and finishes off Coalossal and brings Krookadile down to a very low 26 HP. However, this lets us bring Flamigo in for free now to copy the stat boost from the Krookadile with the Co-Star ability. With our 2 super strong Pokemon set up now, we can have Krookadile use a Terra boosted Rock Slide and have Flamigo double into the Ting-Lu with a close combat to guarantee a KO onto it. However, as it turns out though, this Vivillon has a Focus Sash, so it lives on 1 HP from the Rock Slide, but the same cannot be said for the Ting-Lu as the close combat from Flamigo finishes it off. Using its last bit of HP, the Vivillon sets up a tailwind for their team as the next Pokemon that comes out is a Dragonite. Now, because this Krookadile has a Choice Scarf to increase its speed, it does unfortunately mean we are locked into using Rock Slide again, as ideally I would have liked to protect this turn expecting a potential extreme speed, but I think in certain scenarios, having the speed boost may be more necessary for Krookadile. On the other hand though, knowing that Vivillon could protect here, we can have Flamigo use Feint to move first and guarantee a KO on it. But lucky us, our opponent maybe got a bit too greedy here and decides to use Dragon Dance to try and set up. So that means that Krookadile gets a free Rock Slide off and straight up KOs the Dragonite right through the multi-scale. It may be Dragon Dancing right now, but Krookadile will be the one dancing on its grave after that, as their final Pokemon that comes out is a lonely Orthworm. And with the potential close combat from Flamigo, our opponent decides to call it and forfeit right there. This match is going to show off not Annihilape, but Annihilape at home, aka a Ghost Terra Primeape. The nice thing about the introduction of Annihilape is that it means that Primeape can now hold an Eviolite to boost its defenses. So we're going to lead with Iron Bundle, Coalossal, and have Primeape and Flamigo in the back. It looks like our opponent leads off with a Vivillon and an Iron Bundle of their own. Now admittedly this is actually kind of risky because we both have booster energies to increase our Iron Bundles' speed stats. So we are very likely at a speed tie here. But you gotta risk it for the biscuit. So we stick with the plan and have Iron Bundle flip turn our own Coalossal while it targets it back with a Rock Blast too. With Vivillon using Protect first, it looks like our Iron Bundle wins the speed tie and can flip turn Coalossal, which takes it down to critical HP to trigger not only Steam Engine for the speed boost, but also the Landsat Barrier for the critical boost. So now Iron Bundle can switch out to bring in Primeape, and you will see now why we use Primeape and not Annihilape. and that is because Primeape still gets access to the ability Anger Point. So once it comes out, the Coalossal is able to move first because of the increased speed and start hitting Primeape. The first of which is a critical hit, so Anger Point activates, raising Primeape's attack by 6 stages. But not only this, but each hit from Rock Blast is also providing stacks for Rage Fist, increasing its base power by 50 for each hit. Finally though, the opponent's Iron Bundle goes and KOs the Coalossal, but this is also fine for us because that just means we get to bring in Flamigo for free, who copies the attack boost from the Primeape. Would have been nice to keep the max speed Coalossal, but oh well. With these two out now, we can have Flamigo use Brave Bird on the Vivillon and Primeape use Drain Punch on the Iron Bundle. However, because these two only have attack boosts and no speed boosts, the Iron Bundle still goes first and uses Icy Wind, which drops the speed of both of our Pokemon. This allows Vivillon to go next and use Hurricane against Flamigo, KOing it. Basically, this leaves our Primeape and Iron Bundle as our last hope. This is fine though, as the Drain Punch from Ape does get the return KO onto Iron Bundle, and at least actually heals us up quite a bit. The opponent sends out Indeedee next, and with our Iron Bundle back out on the field, even without its booster energy, it can still be useful by having it use Icy Wind for some speed control, while we also terrestrialize Primeape into a Ghost type to get rid of our fighting type, and complete the Annihilape cosplay. All the while, we can also target the Indeedee with the Drain Punch. Indeedee does go first though, and takes Primeape down to half health, but after Iron Bundle's Icy Wind to drop the opponent's speed, it lets Primeape go first for that Drain Punch, and thankfully, the Indeedee has plenty of health for us to steal as we KO it, leaving Vivillon to put our bundle to sleep with a Sleep Powder. Our opponent's final Pokemon is the real deal though, Annihilape Prime. Or maybe the OG Annihilape is a better term. Naturally, we have Iron Bundle try to use Icy Wind again, while Primeape goes for a Rage Fist against the Annihilape. But it looks like our opponent is also going to terrestrialize his Annihilape into a Water type, getting rid of his Ghost type weaknesses. And because our Primeape had a speed drop from the earlier Icy Wind, his Annihilape gets to go first. But even though Rage Fist is a super effective move, since it had no stacks and Primeape is so bulky with that Eviolite, we survive, allowing the Annihilape at home to show us how you really use a Rage Fist and get the KO in return. After that massacre, Vivillon once again uses Sleep Powder, this time on Primeape. The next turn, unfortunately, both of our Pokemon decide to not wake up, which lets Vivillon KO our Primeape with a Hurricane. But on its third turn of sleep, Iron Bundle finally wakes up to finish the job with an Icy Wind. But when you look at that, it turns out that a fake can surpass the original. Coalossal isn't the only Pokemon that has to take the brunt of Iron Bundle's flip turn though. There's also the possibility of leading with Armarouge instead. After a flip turn, it can activate both Weak Armor and Weakness Policy on Armarouge, giving it +2 in 3 different stats. From there, these can be copied onto Flamigo, and Armarouge can use Stored Power, which gets increased to 140 base power because of all of the stat increases Armarouge has. This option can be used in scenarios where damage from flip turn would be changed. This is important because the damage of flip turn is actually very precise. If it does too little damage from something like an Intimidate, it means that it won't do enough damage to activate Coalossal's Lancet Berry. However, if it does too much damage from either Rain or Chi and Power being on the field, it would do too much and KO the Coalossal. There's also the chance that you just don't want to gamble with the possibility of a Rock Blast even missing, or not landing a crit despite the critical attack boosts, or the ultimate pie in the face of accidentally critting your own Coalossal with a flip turn. None of which ever happened to me during testing, absolutely not, no siree. So there's many different ways in which you can use this team. You aren't necessarily locked into the same strategy every time, which is really nice. In fact, you don't even have to use any meme strats at all if you want to. In this match, we're still going to lead with Coalossal and Iron Bundle with Primeape and Flamigo in the back, but since our opponent is deciding to lead with an Arcanine, the Intimidate means that we can't really rely on Flip Turn anymore because that won't trigger the Lancet Barrier on Coalossal. So instead, we can just have Coalossal use Earth Power and Iron Bundle use Icy Wind. Arcanine protects itself while Dragonite uses Extreme Speed onto Coalossal, which actually doesn't do too much damage. After that though, Iron Bundle is able to use Freeze Dry and still does good damage to Dragonite. After all, this Iron Bundle is still spec'd as if it were a regular max speed and special attack bundle, it just happens to occasionally flip turn an ally. For the next turn, we can simply rinse and repeat, because if Coalossal lands with Earth Power, it can do huge damage to Arcanine, since, like Iron Bundle, it is also spec'd for special attack and speed. It just happens to be a bit frail. The opponent switches out Dragonite though for Abomasnow, and terrestrializes his Arcanine, getting rid of its fire type and transforms it into a flying type, meaning that we don't get our Earth Power. However, Icy Wind will still now do super effective damage. Not only that, but it will also lower its speed. The Arcanine for some reason decides to use Will-O-Wisp on Coalossal, which is interesting to say the least. I can only assume that he was expecting me to switch in, but even then, why would I switch in here? I don't know. So on to the next turn though, although we can't Earth Power the Arcanine anymore, we can use Overheat. on the Abomasnow instead. Meanwhile, Iron Bundle can do its thing and Icy Wind away. Arcanine protects yet again, so it'll live this turn, but after that, the Coalossal's Overheat takes down the Abomasnow with ease as they bring in their next Pokemon, which is going to be a Fluttermane. With -2 special attack after using Overheat and a Fairy type on the field, as well as a Terrestrialized Flying type, our only real option with Coalossal is to use Rock Blast on the Arcanine now. So after Iron Bundle once again uses Icy Wind to break a potential Sash from Fluttermane and weaken both of their Pokemon, a Thunderbolt from Fluttermane does KO the Iron Bundle, but Coalossal is able to get the return KO on the Arcanine and we can bring in our Primeape. With Dragonite as their final Pokemon, once again we can have Coalossal use Rock Blast since its other moves are either resisted or won't have an effect. And as for Primeape, he can use Rage Fist on the Fluttermane, with the Ghost type Terrestrialization too to get the extra stab boost. Now thanks to the speed drops from Iron Bundle's Icy Wind, Budget Annihilape is able to go first and KO the Fluttermane. Dragonite decides to use Tailwind, but I think it might be a little bit too late for that, as Coalossal's Rock Blast comes through and hey, would you look at that. We get a crit, even without the Lancet Berry, so I guess you don't even need a berry to boost it. And not only that, but we also get 4 hits, which is just enough to KO the Dragonite. And I'll be honest, in that scenario, the crit definitely mattered for the KO. But even if we didn't get it, I'm pretty sure we would have won this match no matter what. So as you can see, although this team requires a little bit more setup compared to the previous self-crit meme team, this team at least has a lot more variety in terms of how you use it, which is really nice in my opinion. You aren't necessarily locked into only one strategy here. The only downside is, as I said earlier, since you aren't using a guaranteed crit move like Flower Trick, you do run the risk of potentially not getting a crit when you use Rock Blast, or even worse than accidentally critting your own Coalossal. But I mean, with Rock Blast, after getting the 90% chance to hit, there is still the 35% chance to each hit either 2 or 3 times, and then a 15% chance each to hit either 4 or 5 times. And with 2 stages of critical rate boost from a Lancet Berry, each hit has a 50% chance to be a crit. So I mean, statistically speaking, what are the odds of not getting a crit, right? I mean, come on, it can't be that bad, right? Hopefully though, you enjoyed this team showcase, and if you did, please do consider liking and subscribing for future videos just like this. But until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.